when people think of Mexico City, they think like the main city, and that's usually called DF, the federal district. And so that's like where you have to go to get your visas, to go do your paperwork and stuff. So that's what mainly people think of Mexico City. And so what our mission was is probably an hour and a half drive north of that. And so driving north, it's still tons and tons of houses, and so they don't have almost any room apart, just tons of people, and all hills, like I said before. And so you just keep walking. One of my areas was just 3 hills like that, and it was really tough, but like I said, you have good calves afterwards. So, but the culture there, just as nice. People are a little bit more closed than Hidalgo, but still we had lots of success in Mexico, just because there are tons of members already, and they really help a lot. A lot of times I grew up where it's really tough to have like member lessons, or there wasn't a lot of missionary work in my home ward. And so what I was really surprised about Mexico, when people came up, like, have a friend that wants to take the discussions, it was like, wow, I've never really had that before. Interesting. And so in Mexico, it was really easy to find people, because people always knew somebody that was a Mormon. And so they always like, oh yeah, what do you believe? And so it was just easy conversation. There's also lots of religions in Mexico. It's not just Catholic like sometimes we think. There are Jehovah's Witnesses, there are Christians, there are the really singing Christians, those kind, and then there's of course LDS Church. There's tons of different churches there. Even in Mexico City, there's a Jewish like section of it, and so there's a lot of Jewish there in Mexico City as well. The weather's similar, except it rains a lot, and it rains usually in the summer. So from like May to about August or so, it's just lots and lots of rain. And so that was kind of tough. We had umbrellas, but that doesn't help too much if you're walking uphill. All the rain's coming downhill, so you get home, you're completely soaked. But it was a fun experience too. And so they did have all the kind of burritos you have, not like the restaurants here where they just have a big burrito thing. They don't have things like that. It's just very small, and you just stick whatever you need to on your tortilla and then just eat that. So they have that. Mole was my favorite food, and that's, I think, I heard it described as chocolate sauce once. It's not really chocolate. It's like a spicy brown sauce. I don't really know how to explain it, but that is the best Mexican food in my opinion. You eat that, and then you just got rice and tortillas with that, and I can live off of that. Of course, tacos are awesome there. They just have little taco stands on the side of the road, and in American dollars, you can fill yourself up with about eight tacos and then a soda for about $4. And so that you get really full. And so that was usually our treat whenever, if we had a tough day or if we had a good day, whatever the reason was, we went out to eat tacos. That was what you did. They also have really good hamburgers there. They do have a little twists from what we have here. So there's a few areas I was in that they did have really good hamburgers, but we usually try to stick to the tacos. But they have everything you think of, like the enchiladas, tons of food like that we know of, but just 100% authentic, so it tastes a lot better. The best eggs I've ever had have been on the mission, and what I don't know exactly what they did, but somehow they did the eggs and then they made salsa at the same time, but then they took the liquid from the salsa and then stuck that in the eggs while they were cooking it, and so it was like half and half, and it was really good. They do have really hot salsa. The hottest I ever took was the last day of the mission, and she was just piling it on there, and I was thinking, oh, I've been on the mission for 2 years now, I could probably do something like that, but I was a little careful, so I only put like little drops on there, and I had to go to the bathroom, like try to wash out my mouth because it was too hot for me. So they love salsa there, so they'll try tons of it. They don't a lot of times they don't give you dessert. Dessert here we think of like cake or cheesecake, whatever, or ice cream. A lot of times there it's just a piece of fruit, and so that was surprising to me. Like when they said, "Elders, do you want dessert?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool," and then they'd give you a peach. I'm like, "Oh, all right, thank you," but it's not as much dessert. They just give you fruit as dessert now, and then they put some cream on it sometimes, and so that was pretty good. You do eat a lot of fruit there. They have tons of different fruit, and it's really cheap, and so every morning we'd have like mangoes or bananas or things like that. That was just really cheap there, and they're everywhere. And so also they just have tiendas, just little stores on the side of the street, and that's usually what you buy all your food from. and they just had tons of little treats. They have tons of candy there, tons of different kinds of drinks, and so you never go thirsty, you never go hungry, because you have plenty with the money you have, you can buy plenty of food. I never even got close to spending all the money that I could have. Everything's just a lot cheaper there as well, and so clothes and stuff. And so coming back to America, like the last P-Day there, I went, bought nice jeans, shirts and stuff, like all these designer brands, and I spent less than $50. And so that was cool too at the end. Mexicans love their music, and so you'll hear tons and tons of music. There's reggaeton, there's the Hidalgo one, and so that's the kind that you hear of the La Banda, and so that's the kind you hear in the restaurants and stuff. That's kind of what Hidalgo listen to, but more in the city, people like their boom, boom, boom kind of music, and so you hear that all on the buses. There's tons and tons of traffic, and so when jumping on the bus, you have to just kind of jump on and then try not to fall down, because they don't really stop for you. And so you just jump on really quick and they move on, and then they're blasting their stereo as loud as they can. And so you usually use those opportunities to sit next to somebody else and start talking to them.